Hello and welcome. This is your instructor, Dennis Westerman, and today I would like to talk about Excel Unit J, which is enhancing charts. Now, the actual section begins on page 226, and again, this unit is simply about taking your charts to the next level, enhancing them with various items and performing certain tasks. And so if you look on page 226, this is all about customizing a data series. And a data series is just simply a set of values and labels that are used to create the particular chart that you're working on. But let's say, for instance, you want to flip the X and the Y axis, or maybe you want to group a series of data elements together a different way, maybe by year or maybe by month or something. You can manipulate or adjust the data series depending on your particular needs. And that's talked about a little bit on page 226 and some examples on page 227. Say you want to change the source of the data. Maybe you like the way the chart is, but you have a new set of data you need to make a chart with. On page 228, it talks about changing the data source. So instead of using, like an example on 229, it's using January, February, and March, but now maybe you want to use April, May, and June. So you can select the chart with a couple of options, get into the data source, and be able to change the data that actually creates the chart. You can also add some chart elements, things like a legend, the x-axis labels, the y-axis labels, a data table, those kinds of things. And that's talked about on page 230. And again, that's all about just adding different elements to enhance your particular chart that you are working on. Page 232 talks about formatting the chart axes. So that's giving it a vertical title or a horizontal title, and it just allows the users to better understand the presentation of the chart. And so you can change the vertical axis or the horizontal axis to include a certain label, or maybe you want to change the tick marks, which decides, okay, instead of going every 10,000 put a line, let's go every 25,000 put a line, and it kind of changes the perspective of your particular chart. You can also create a combination chart, which is on page 234, and this is just essentially combining two charts into one. And on this example, if you look at the bottom of page 235, they're using an example of, they're using a line chart, but they're also using a bar chart. And so it's very helpful sometimes to present data in two different ways directly on the particular chart. Other things you can do to enhance a chart are discussed on the next page, page 236. You can use word art, which is sort of the way that you can type text, but then it makes these sort of words that maybe go in a half moon, or maybe provide some shadow or depth or those kinds of things. And that's talked about on that page. You can also do something called a spark line, and spark lines are really neat because they're just like little miniature charts. And this is talked about on page 238. And the definition is up at the top, and I'm going to read this because I think it's important. But spark lines are miniature charts that show data trends in a worksheet range, such as sales increases or decreases. Spark lines are also useful in highlighting maximum and minimum values in a range. And so what it does is these little spark lines put little miniature charts in just one little cell. And I might have you take a moment when you have a chance to explore those spark lines a little more, because they are pretty awesome. They are really neat to be able to do some of those things with your data table, but without making a chart. You can just use this little spark line charts to make different items. And if you look on page 239, they're using sort of a little mini line graph in column H, and then they're using in column H on the bottom one, they're using little bar charts that are just right there within the cell. On page 240, talks about identifying data trends and using a trend line, and that's just another thing that you can add to a chart to help show sort of an overall trend within the chart. And that's again talked about on page 240. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to email me or post to the general class chat discussion board. I appreciate you watching the video. Have a great day. Thank you.